What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and our 2023 college football predictions continue for the 2023 college football season. Up next is the Iowa Hawkeyes, a team coming off a pretty up-and-down season in 2022. But they went 8-5 last year, so it was a pretty decent season for Iowa. They missed out on the Big Ten championship. This is a team that has a chance to get to the Big Ten championship this upcoming season, perhaps. I think they're going to be better on the offensive side of the football. That's the one, side of the football that they struggled with last year, was definitely the offensive side of the football. But my thoughts on this team this year, I think they're going to be pretty good on that side of the football. Defense, though, is what I'm concerned about for this Iowa team. But they've been good on defense for the last couple years, so maybe there isn't a problem for their defense, but they lost so much production on that side of the football. But this upcoming season, you got Cade McNamara coming in, the transfer from, Michigan. How good of a quarterback is he going to be for this team? I think he helps out that passing attack for this Iowa team really well. Looking at the schedule for Iowa this year, they'll play Utah State, Iowa State on the road, in Western Michigan in the non-conference. And with Iowa State on that schedule on the road, it makes it a little bit tougher, but not overall a bad non-conference schedule for this Iowa team. And you look at who they play outside of the Big Ten West. They'll play Penn State on the road, Michigan State at home, and they'll also play Rutgers at home. So no Michigan or Ohio State on the schedule. They had to play Ohio State last year out of the East, so that is really, that's a really nice setup. They do have to play Penn State on the road, but that will be a tough one there. So we'll see how it goes. But let's get right to the prediction here for this Iowa team. So they got an easy game here against Utah State here on September the 2nd. Well, I wouldn't really say easy, to be honest, but Utah State is a pretty good group of 5 team, but I think Iowa should take care of business in this one. I know they have no business to lose this game against Utah State. But that being said, I think Iowa starts off 1-0 here pretty easily for 2023. So I got them winning that one against Utah State. Then it's that road game on the road at Iowa State here on September the 9th. Rival game here. You just never know what can happen between these two teams. Obviously, it's a battle for a trophy here between these two teams as well. Looking at the couple matchups in the past now, in 2021, Iowa defeated Iowa State on the road a couple years ago. That's where Iowa State should have been really good that year. They were getting so much hype that year. And then last year, Iowa lost to Iowa State at home. So it's been pretty a one-sided rivalry between these two teams. I mean, this is a tough place to play if you're an Iowa team, though. I mean, Iowa State was pretty young last year. They got beat by a young Iowa State team. This year, I think the Cyclones are going to be better. I think people are kind of sleeping on this team in the Big 12. I think they have a pretty good chance to be a decent team that can make it to a bowl game, perhaps. This is just one of those games that it's going to come down to the wire. It's definitely a rival game. You never know what can happen. It's a 50-50 game as well. And with that being said, I do like the Cyclones in this game in a pretty close defensive battle. I'm going to go with Iowa State, and you look at the past matchups as well. They've been all pretty much defensive battles, and I think it's one of those games once again this upcoming season. So I got Iowa losing to that one on the road at Iowa State, but then they take care of business against Western Michigan and improve to 2-1. Then they'll open up Big Ten play here on the road at Penn State on September the 23rd. This is the first time that these two teams are also going at it for the last couple years. Penn State lost to Iowa on the road a couple years ago. This time they're playing them at home, so revenge is on the mind for the Nittany Lions this year. I think that defense for Penn State's going to be pretty strong. I think, Iowa's going to have a hard time stopping the Penn State offense as well. I think Penn State will be ready for a pretty good fight here against Iowa. I think in the first half it's pretty close, but second half I think Penn State will pull away in the second half, and I think the Nittany Lions do win by at least a couple touchdowns. So I got Iowa losing to that game on the road at Penn State, and I got Iowa falling to 2-2. Michigan State coming up next year on September the 30th. Michigan State, obviously, a lot of question marks now for this team. You're kind of expecting them to, be good this year, but let's be honest, they lost their quarterback now, and I'm kind of concerned about that Michigan State quarterback position. So there's just a lot of question marks for the Spartans now this upcoming season. I think Iowa gets a pretty easy win here over the Spartans of Michigan State, and you're probably saying, how is that going to be an easy win? I just am concerned about Michigan State's, their season now. So I think Iowa wins that one at home on September the 30th. They improve to 3-2. Then it's Purdue the next week here on October the 7th. You look at these two teams, they've owned the Big Ten West now in the last couple years. Obviously, Iowa won the Big Ten, West in 2021, but then last year the Boilermakers took it away from them. So yeah, both of these teams have been pretty close in the last couple years, and they've just been owning the Big Ten West now in the last couple years. So you're talking about a game that's going to go either way, but however, the Hawkeyes do have home field advantage in this one over the Boilermakers. Plus, it's a new era for Purdue. I just don't know how good this Purdue team is going to be. Maybe they can still make it to a bowl game somehow. But I just like Iowa in this game. In a pretty close one-sided ball game here, and I got Iowa winning here against Purdue here on October the 7th, and I think they get to 4-2 after a win over Purdue like that. Wisconsin coming up on the road next here on October the 14th. I've done my Wisconsin video from yesterday. You can go back and watch that video, and you already saw who I predicted to win this game. And yes, I do like Wisconsin in this game. I mean, it's a close game. It's a one-sided game here between these two teams. I think, with home field advantage, the Badgers will be favored in this one by a field goal, and I think it comes down to a field goal in this game. I like Wisconsin here in a close one over Iowa, and I think they give Iowa here their third loss of the season. So I got Iowa now falling to 4-3. Then they'll play Minnesota here on October the 21st. I think this is kind of a trap game here for Iowa. You're coming off a pretty tough loss to Wisconsin on the road from last week, and maybe they're not kind of focused on this Minnesota team the next week. So, yeah, I think this will be a hard-fought game here for Iowa, but at the end of the day, they do have home field advantage in this game, and I think they at least get a win over the Golden Gophers. It won't be an easy one, but I think Iowa wins that one. And let's be honest, the Big Ten West is obviously a tough, division to predict because anything can happen in the Big Ten West. I mean, anything can happen with all these teams that you're seeing in the Big Ten West as well. But I like Iowa in that matchup here against Minnesota. They'll get a bye week after playing that game. They'll play Northwestern here in Chicago. They play on a neutral site field here. I think this is on a, baseball field. I think this will be at Yankee Stadium perhaps. This is a pretty interesting Big Ten neutral site matchup. I mean, I'm kind of expecting it to go back and forth, but let's be honest, I really don't see Northwestern being all that good this year, but when it came down to these neutral site games, I usually go with, the most returning production, who has the most experience coming back on either side of the football. And with that being said, Iowa does have the more experience and the more talented team here, and like I said, it comes down to the experience. I'm going to go with Iowa here in a close one over Northwestern at Chicago, and I got Iowa now improving to 6-3. Then Rutgers coming up next on November the 11th. Rutgers, obviously a team that, I'm not really high on. I think Iowa should win pretty easily here over the Rutgers on November the 11th. So I got Iowa now improving to 7-3. Then it's Illinois here on November the 18th. Illinois is kind of a trap game here for Iowa. It's kind of similar to the Minnesota game and Purdue game. It's definitely, a game that can go either way. I think Illinois is going to be a pretty good team this year. I think they're an underdog in the Big Ten West, but maybe not a top 25 team perhaps, but maybe they are up there, maybe in the Big Ten West. But, Iowa's at home in this game. I think they win pretty much easily. Not easily, but I think, they take care of business at the end of the day. And I just like the Hawkeyes here in a close one over Illinois, so I got Iowa winning that one. Then it's Nebraska on the road to end things out here on November 24th. Interesting game here on the road here for Iowa. Tough place to play at Nebraska. Nebraska obviously is kind of similar to Purdue and Wisconsin on the schedule. They're in a new era this year. And, I think Matt Rhule is definitely the right hire for Nebraska, but it's just hard to tell how good this team will be. But this is definitely a tough place to play if you're the Iowa Hawkeyes. I mean, it's going to be a tough game to play at. It's kind of similar to all those road games that are marked as losses already. I think Nebraska will be ready for this one, plus this game is on a Friday night. It's not really a big break here for Iowa as they head into this game as well. With that being said, I think it's one of those upset alert type games if Iowa was ranked in the top 25. I like Nebraska here in a close one over the Iowa Hawkeyes, and I got Iowa finishing with a record of 8-4 for 2023. I think that's a pretty good prediction for Iowa. I think the schedule kind of sets up well for them to have a pretty good season this year, and also I think they'll be really strong on that offensive side of the football. I think Cade McNamara gives them a chance to really get this Iowa team to the Big Ten championship. But, watch out for all these teams. The Big Ten West is definitely wide open this year, like it always is every single year. And I think Iowa is definitely up there as the top contenders. I mean, anybody can win the Big Ten West. Let's be honest. Anybody can win it. But 8-4 is my official prediction for this Iowa team in 2023. Let me guys know what you think about this Iowa team. What do you think their record will be in 2023? And stay tuned here for more sports content videos on the Lucas Ross Sports Channel.